Hi everyone, I'm Jane from the Business of Food, and every week we have a lunch bite session that introduces you to some experts in our community that we think might be able to help you with some of the challenges you've got in running your small food business. I don't know about you guys, but I actually work out of a couple of co-working spaces. I run some of my business from home, and then when I need some interaction with other people, I work out of iHarvest Co-working in Sunshine, part of the Brimbank City Council offering, and then I work out of Waterman in Chadstone to service the customers that I have over that side of the city as well. And I get to meet some amazing people. And one of those people is Matt Kuter from ITgeniq. He works also out of the Sunshine office, and I don't know, we just hit it off straight away because Matt's got some amazing skills around IT, and he has a real handle on small business problems. Let's talk to him about it, but I think part of the reason is he's a small business. He understands, the bootstrapping mentality and the kind of problems that we go through, but then he has these amazing IT skills as well. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Jane. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Can you just give us a little bit of introduction about you and how you got into business, and then ITgeniq and what you're hoping to achieve with that?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the IT industry for over 20 years now. I started out life as a software developer and worked through and done all sorts of different types of management roles within the IT system environment. And finally, before I started my journey as a small business, I was working as a software architect for a large company. So I kind of was getting sick of, or not sick of, but seeing all these multi-million-dollar projects flying by. And I've also had a bit of a passion for open source software and the way that open source software can help save money in terms of IT cost. And so I wanted to try and put the two together and figure out how I can help small businesses save money by using and leveraging open source software. So the reason why small businesses, though, is that growing up, my dad's always owned his own small business. So he was lucky in that as I graduated from my IT degree, and I could help him out with all of his IT work. But without me, he would have been very lost. And I know that there's many businesses out there that are just as lost as he would have been. And so it's kind of my passion to help small businesses and also to leverage that open source software that's out there.
Fantastic. So do you mind describing to us that are not IT savvy what open source means?
Yeah, sure. Open source software is, there's different definitions of it, but I suppose the ultimate understanding is that the source code for the software is available for you to freely download and use any way you see fit. So there's different types of licenses that can fall under, whether you can then commercially sell that software yourself, or whether you're obliged to return any customizations or changes you make to that software. Some of them require you to actually give that back to the community. So the idea is that some of these open source software, it is built by sometimes a company, sometimes an individual, and then over time the community around the world starts to contribute more bits as a small business. Like I might fix something, fix a problem in a particular piece of software for one of my customers, but then contribute that source code back so that any future people who are using that software get the benefit of that work. And that's kind of the way you pay back for being able to get this software for free and to be able to use it for free.
Yeah, that sounds like a real community. It sounds like a real IT community kind of concept of, like you say, giving back. Has it been around for long?
A long time. Yeah, it's been around for a very long time. Some of the biggest names that you would have heard of, everyone's heard of Linux, I'm sure. It's one of the other alternate operating systems. So that is probably one of the most common open source, or one of the biggest open source products out there. The Linux engine or the Linux kernel actually drives all mobile phones, all Android mobile phones. It drives so many embedded computer systems. Your router that connects to the internet is probably running a Linux operating system underneath it. So it controls so much of the world, and it's huge. There's so many hundreds of thousands of lines of code in that thing. It's massive, and contributors from all over the world. So
that's interesting. I didn't realize that Linux was actually still open source. So do you find that it's a great pathway, and I'm kind of getting off track here, but do you find that it's a, surprise, surprise, do you find that it's a great way for developers to actually test a product before they make it a commercial product?
Usually not, because once you release something on the open source, depending on the license you have, once it's released as open source, that's pretty much it. It's out there, and people can then start to use it. I mean, there are other, commercial open source licenses. So there might be an open source version of a piece of software, but a commercial offering which has more features, which are, you have to pay for. So that's quite common for a lot of the open source platforms out there as well, especially the commercially driven ones. But probably not so much from a developer's perspective, just to get, test the market or anything like that. You probably wouldn't want to be releasing it as open source. I mean, building and maintaining an open source community is actually quite hard. So it's really hard to get that engagement and to get that, I suppose, that momentum from the community. And a lot of open source products, they get released and then they get no traction and they get abandoned. There's for every successful open source project out there, there's probably 100 to 1,000 that fail.
So they didn't get traction, not because they didn't work.
Or because they don't get traction, or because it's really just one person driving the whole thing and doing all the updates. And until you get that community of contributions from all around the world, you it just stagnates. And then if that person's not using that software anymore, they've got no reason to update it. So it sort of just dies. But that being said, when it's been open sourced, it's still there, and someone may discover it later and go, this is almost exactly what I need, and they can pick it up and run with it. So that's the other beauty of that, is that some of this effort that people put in and build these amazing things doesn't get lost.
Okay, I've got it. Open source. So I actually wrote a media article on, open source as in SAUCE, because there is some kind of community concept to, the food industry, obviously, and the giving and taking of sharing of information, and the support behind it is, I saw as very, very similar. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about ITgeniq, because you did touch on it a little bit, but tell me what you do on a day-to-day basis.
So the main thing that I do is help with business and IT strategy, and that's making sure that the IT systems you're using are in line with the business strategy that you have. Now, I know many small businesses out there, they see they have a need. They need a CRM, for example, and they just choose one that looks good right now, or one that their friend recommended, or and over time we sort of get these piecemeal bits and pieces of software together. And the idea that you probably need to be considering your full IT strategy, your business strategy, and then map that to an IT strategy so that you're choosing the right product rather than just what's available or what your mate down the road recommended. And that makes sure that, as your business is growing, if, for example, in 3 years' time, you expect to be a national chain, with distribution in multiple states, then you need software that can handle that. You don't want software that's going to be stuck with, just one distribution center. You might need one that can handle multiple. And so you need to be able to be considering that in all of your choice of software.
I think it's the same with the marketing strategy, but I think having the business strategy in the beginning, or the business plan, at least a goal, is really useful. We had Marav from Web Design talk a few weeks ago about her online strategy and building a website and those kind of things. So it kind of all fits together, but you need to have that idea of what you want to achieve as a business and how you want to build that in place first.
correct. And there's so many, there's so much software out there. Like, you know, if you've got looking for a CRM, there's thousands. In fact, it's probably the one system that I, when a customer comes to me and says, I need help choosing a CRM, it's like, oh no, not again. Because what was right for this business is not going to be right for the next one. So, yeah, I'm almost starting from scratch every time, looking at, and of course, there's common ones that you will look at. But yeah, it's an interesting challenge to understand a business's processes and procedures, and then map that to the right software, rather than the other way around, trying to pick some software and maybe mapping the processes and procedures to the software. And you can do it a bit of both ways. So some businesses may not have best practice, and a lot of the software does have best practice built in. And so it's a little bit of give and take.
Right.
Your processes, how you see them right now, exactly. But yeah, sometimes you might have to adjust to suit the software.
Yeah, yeah. So we were talking before about the services that you're offering is actually taking the process and building a bespoke kind of system for every business. So take what you just said about the CRM, but expand that out to develop a process, an IT system that supports the processing, right?
Correct. And it's not usually not just one single piece of software. I mean, there's two ways to go about it. The all-in-one, and that's an ERP, something like an enterprise resource planning system. And that comes from the manufacturing background, where they were talking about the enterprise resources. So we're talking about raw materials being shipped into components, and those components then being added to a more complex product, which then finally gets shipped. And we can use the same sort of process in terms of food. You take your raw materials, you then take them through the steps of your recipe through to final production, and then of course tracking distribution, who's receiving what batches, so that if there is an issue, for example, one of your ingredients gets recalled, you can then track from the ingredient through to which batches had that particular batch of ingredient in it and who you shipped it to, so you know who to recall from. So that if you do get involved in something like a recall, you're not recalling absolutely everything. You know exactly which products were affected, and you only have to recall those.
Yeah. And you,
business, and that would be all in one type software. Whereas sometimes it makes more sense to have separate bits of software that talk to each other through an integration process. And so the majority of my work is making that decision around which way to go. And then helping to implement and configure, usually configuration rather than more customization. It's configuring the systems so that they match, or that they are right for your business, and that they're integrated. So if you do have a separate CRM from, say, an email marketing system, that they talk to each other, and you're not double entering email addresses in both of them. It's coming straight out of one and into the other. So yeah, that's the majority of the work that I do with businesses, is helping trying to automate your business as much as possible, so that the IT systems sort of run and do the admin side, so that you can focus on just running the business side.
Yeah, fantastic. Because that running the business side is often not the focus of a food producer. often they'll have a very clear idea of what they're making and who they want to get it to, but the business side often is secondary. I don't know how many times I've had people come to me and say, I want to make this, rather than I want to build this business. It's more, I want to make this product. So making it streamlined and easier obviously appeals to all of us. I think I started out with an Excel spreadsheet for my customers, and then I was just doing my invoices online. I went to a QuickBooks system. I've suddenly got HubSpot as my CRM. I use MailChimp. I use Eventbrite. And suddenly you're collecting the same data across 5 different platforms, and that becomes really tedious. Not only for marketing, but for keeping up with the people that you need to keep up with, and making the most of that 80% of your customer base that is loyal and is coming back, rather than chasing the 20% that is not.
And it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And I suppose the goal that I wanted to make from ITgeniq is to try and make that as affordable as possible. Because it is expensive hiring an IT expert to come and talk, face to face. Hourly rates for IT are quite high. And so the whole idea of ITgeniq is I'm looking for ways to make it more affordable for smaller businesses, especially those that are just starting out, because that's the right time to get in and get it sorted, because it costs less. The more investment you've already got on existing systems, the more expensive it becomes to change your systems later. And so the idea is I want to try and make it as affordable as possible for people starting out to be able to come and get the help they need and be able to build an IT structure behind their business that will help them deliver.
Okay. So you and I have also had that conversation about how that kind of system can actually incorporate some of the food laws and the record sheets that are involved in a food safety program.
Yeah.
Is that the way to capture all some of that data?
It would probably, yeah, I think it would be. I mean, it is ideally what you want is a central place for all of your information to be stored, so that if you do need to, produce reports or you get audited for something, and you have to show your records, if they're online and they're in a system where you can just, effectively export, send. It's much easier than tracking down all those pieces of paper with the temperature logs on them and all of the things that you have to do. And that's the whole idea, is to try and automate as much as possible. And that's where something like an ERP for a food business makes a lot of sense, because you do have all of these separate bits that sort of need to be collated into one place, and then your business processes then drive from all that different information. So yeah.
Fantastic. So you don't only deal with food businesses though. How many other kind of businesses have you worked on for a bespoke kind of system like this?
Quite a few. So I've got some that are like some micro businesses that are, one is a communications specialist, a communications coach. So she does a lot of communications work, and so I've been doing a lot of work for her. She was running on an IT system that the company who was running that system just decided, all right, we're shutting it down now. And so her whole business was being run out of this one piece of software, a commercial piece of software, and it got shut down. And so we had to completely replace all of her IT systems with a new system. So that was always a fun challenge.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of other businesses that I also do work for. There's smaller businesses, probably up to about 10, 15 employees. So that's probably my sweet spot, is around, when a business starts to grow and you're starting to get employees, that's when it becomes critical to get your IT systems in place, because onboarding new employees to a business with IT systems in place that cover everything becomes, it's so much easier than, we've got this manual process and, I'll have to just tell you. And then, of course, Chinese whispers happens.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then I'll tell you, they tell the next person, and then next thing you know, the process is completely lost.
Absolutely. I think as soon as you start hiring people, that's when all the HR processes come in as well, and all that regulation attached to, basically employing someone is added on top of the already loaded admin time that you have.
Exactly.
So how have you been coping in these unusual times? Because I know that you've got smaller children, right?
Yeah. So it's been challenging. Before I went to start working at iHarvest, I was working from home anyway. So it's almost a return to what I was doing a couple of years ago. So in that regard, it's not too bad. But having the kids home all the time has been a real challenge, especially with the homeschooling. It's not very hands-off. It's very hands-on, making sure that they're doing the right thing. My youngest, who went back last week, she really needed the hand-holding, because she's in prep, or foundation as we call it now. So we couldn't just set her up in front of a computer or a tablet or a laptop and just say, go and do it. My son, who's a little bit older, he can, but of course we still need to be checking on him to make sure he hasn't gotten distracted and started watching YouTube videos instead of doing the work he's meant to be doing.
And I'm sure there's been a lot of that going on. I think you're talking to every parent under the sun right at the moment, because you've just had, an extra layer of teacher added to your skill set, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's been challenging in that regards, just being able to get the time to be able to work on business. And then, of course, with everything that's happening, a lot of the small businesses that I have been working with have gotten very gun shy in terms of spending money to improve systems and processes, because they don't know what's around the corner. Now
Yeah.
that restrictions are starting to ease, things may start to turn around. People may start to get back involved and go, okay, now is we haven't been impacted as much as possible as we thought we would, and get involved again. But yeah, it's been challenging.
Yeah. The hospitality industry has been particularly hard hit, obviously, but I think we're seeing a rise in inquiries at the moment. So I'm hoping that means that people are looking to come out from hibernation. With when you're building a food product, you and I have had this conversation, I'm sure, that there's that 3-month kind of setup period. So if you're looking to get a product on a retail shelf for Christmas, it's kind of coming up to that time now to start. And if you're talking about, setting up some decent systems in line with your business strategy, then, that will come probably 2 or 3 months in as well. So once you've sorted out what your process is and understand, basically how you're going to grow from there. So you never know. We might be busy around October, Matt.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think so too. Is there anything else you really want to pass on to people? Normally I ask for 5 top tips, but you've got so many, I'm not sure you'd choose which 5.
I suppose just driving back to to think about your business strategy first before making any IT decisions, and that's always a key thing. Even something as simple as selecting the web platform you're going to use to produce your website. Some of them integrate better to other systems than others do. So, WordPress is always really good. It's open source, so I love it. It's also, that's one of the other things is with open source is that, you kind of have control of the software. As I was saying with my friend, before, whose business got shut down because that company said, oh, we're not going to support this product anymore.
Yes.
So open source, you have the source control, you have the source, which means you have the control. If you need to make changes to it, you can make changes to it. You can hire a developer to make changes to it. And so, after looking at your strategy, also consider open source software, because that's, there's so many benefits to it. I've got a lot of articles in my blog as well about why it's why you can benefit from it, and just how good it can be for a business, especially a small business. And probably the other one is just that you're never too small to get advice for your IT. Because that's the thing. A lot of people will think, oh, I'm too small. I don't need to be, it's not complex. I don't need help now. But if you're going to grow, and hopefully you'll grow fast. When you're small is the time to be getting it sorted and getting it right, because as you grow, you'll be focusing on so many other problems. You don't want to be considering your IT problems.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all a bit gun shy of IT people, because we think of we don't think it comes down to our needs, and they often want to charge us a lot of money to give that advice. And I think finding the right expert that deals in the level that you want to be at, I think is sometimes really hard. So just knowing people like you are out there, Matt, is really comforting for a small business owner.
And so, I mean, that's the other thing. I've got my own network of IT providers that, when I understand what your needs are, if I can't personally deliver it, then I know people who can. And so that's the other thing is that, you don't have to go it alone. You don't have to go out there and find an IT person to help you with every single separate thing. And a lot of IT people do focus on just one thing. Speaking to a web builder the other day, so they focus just on designing and building websites. Right. And then, of course, you'll have someone who will focus purely on CRMs, and usually just a particular product of CRM. So a lot of providers are very focused and very niche, And it's very hard to find someone that is, I suppose, more across that higher strategy, and try and look for someone like that to help you with at the outset, and leverage their network of experts that they can call in as well.
Yeah, because I'm sure as a community you all know who's expert in what, right?
To some degree. To some degree. I mean, there's just so many out there, and new ones pop up every day. But yeah, over time we get to know each other a bit better, and as a small business, we like to support other small businesses and help each other out. So
yeah, I think that's the benefit of working in a co-working space, though, too, right?
That's true. That's very true. I can't wait to get back there.
Me either. So Matt, where will people find you?
So online's probably the best place. ITgeniq.com. That's ITGENIQ. So ITgeniq with a Q. We getting a little fancy with the name, but we're thinking about helping you build your IT IQ. So we were talking about the ITgeniq. Yeah. So that was a fun play on the words in the name. So yeah, that's kind of what it is. So that is probably the best place. We've got an online platform for if you just want a little bit of advice, then log in, create an account, and ask me a question. The other thing we can do is provide a high-level IT strategy, answer some questions about the systems you currently have, some information about your business, and we will help you out with a strategy. So
fantastic.
That's probably the best way to get started. Otherwise, just reach out to me through the contact form on the website, and I'm more than happy to help.
Okay, thank you. Is that where your blog is as well, that you were talking about on your webpage?
Blog is on the website. Yeah.
Lovely. Thanks for joining us today, Matt. I'm sure the listeners have got a lot out of it. So hopefully, I'll see you around October with all these new clients.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
bye.
Bye.
Thank you.